Awesome. Thank you for being here. We really were frankly blown away by the amount of interest in coming to this. We just wanted to put on a talk. Partially, I'm just as excited as you are for everyone who's here to speak. So I wanted to hear from all of them, and I'm excited that other people wanted to hear from them as well. Do we want to turn the volume up a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. We're on it. We did not have a speaker mic plan either, so this was all kind of in the last couple of days got it together. So we're glad you're here. We appreciate it. We're excited to hear from our panelists, but we're also excited to hear from you. And this is meant to be audience participation focused. So I have some questions ready based on what we hear from people all the time, from people that want to be in shops and doing shows and in galleries. But if you have questions during the talk based on what we're saying or questions you brought with you, please go ahead and just raise a hand during the talk anytime, and we're happy to get your input as well, because we really want this to be productive for everybody to hear what they need to hear to get going or to continue doing what they're doing with their artwork. So with that, I am going to start with an introduction and have everybody introduce themselves and make sure we all know who's here and what kind of questions we can be asking. A quick shout out to the Citizen for letting us host it here. It's a beautiful location. Yeah, update, please. So beautiful, and we were really excited to be the first event actually in the wine cellar, so welcome to this space. But if you haven't already, definitely take some time after the talk to head upstairs, explore the vendors that are set up. We have vendors from Tucson and Phoenix, which is really fun. Some of our favorite Phoenix artists came down to be here and participate, and we have vendors in the first floor as well as the second floor in the room. So you can actually go explore all the hotel rooms, see what they're like, they're gorgeous, and on the mezzanine as well. The bar is doing happy hour all night. Very talented bartenders, great San Raconer wine, all kinds of good things happening. So definitely grab a drink, check things out, explore the hotel, take your time, and hang out downtown for a while, because we're excited to be here and be hosting the event down here as well. So with that, on to introductions. I'm Teresa. I've been talking for a few minutes now, but I am the founder of Creative Kind. We are a gift and paper goods shop located at La Encantada here in Tucson. We actually started downtown, not too far from here, in pop-ups technically at Armanos was our first one, doing craft workshops, and then moved into a venue space in the Brings building on Scott above Owls Club, which is now the landmark for that building. And then eventually moseyed our way up to La Encantada to open a shop up in that space. And we opened one in Phoenix last year as well. So I actually live in Phoenix now, running that store, so kind of exciting, but came down here and wanted to do this talk in downtown Tucson because that's where my heart is and where I wanted to really meet everybody else and have that common ground. So with that, I'm going to pass it on and let everybody else introduce themselves as well.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Melissa Brown Dominguez. I'm co-owner of Galeria Mitotera. We're located in the city of South Tucson, just about 10 blocks from here. And we are a Latinx art gallery, gift shop, and community space.
My name is Mel Dominguez. I'm also co-owner of Galeria Mitotera. I'm also a local artist here in Tucson, and I'm really excited to talk with you this afternoon, or evening.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Noggle. I am the owner of Van Gallery, and I also go by 10 Times a Tiger as my art name.
I am Savannah Zerbel. I'm the visual merchandiser at Bookman's East, the one on Speedway in Wilma. Part of that job entails being the one who works with local artists who come into our store and want to sell their stuff. And yeah, we really like to get local artists in the door, so it's great.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Kanan. I'm one of the co-owners of PopCycle, along with Shannon and Jen and Libby. We've been there for 14 years on 4th Avenue. We primarily think about sustainability with most of the things that we do. And yeah, and we also are co-hosts of Made in Tucson. Yeah, Tucson.
They asked me if I wanted 2 mics, and I was like, no, there's only 6 of us. Just some patience required. But yeah, I hope everyone's just as excited as I am about the panelists, because we definitely have people that I consider icons in the Tucson art maker scene, and I've always looked up to, but also people that represent a lot of different aesthetics and different styles and tastes of art, different parts of town. We've all been around for different amounts of time, and we also all have very different models in how we work with artists and makers, which I think is really cool with being in Tucson, it's a small city, but there's so much opportunity to work with retailers and with galleries and markets and pop-ups and on your own in the way that works best for you and how you're prepared to scale your business or sell your art and how you want to approach it. So we have galleries, we have consignment, we have wholesale, we have all these different formats of ways, and I think a lot of it is represented in the people on this panel right now. So that is exciting for me, and I hope everyone else takes advantage. And please, raise your hand, ask your questions, because I have plenty, but we really want to hear from you guys as well. So with that, I'm going to start with our first question coming off of that segue. How do you work with artists? What is the format of how you work with them? How do you bring them into your space or create space in the community to work with them and create a platform for them? Whether it's wholesale, consignment, markets, pop-ups, all of that, events, what does it look like and how you interact with those artists? I'll answer last.
So we do have a tiny store, so unfortunately we have a kind of a capacity about how many people we can actually represent in a way that we feel does them justice. So unfortunately it's been hard for us to move a lot of new people in. Tucson has really exploded since the days of Bohemia, which I have to give a lot of credit to Tana, who was a big supporter of the arts before we ever existed, and she was really instrumental in helping me grow my wholesale business, Mellow too. So we always call Tana the godmother of the kind of maker scene here in Tucson. So we are not actually great at getting new folks in most of the time. We did create Made in Tucson because there were so many just beautiful things that we couldn't take, and it's supposed to be about opportunity for everybody. We're not really looking for people that are, we hope that it goes from people that are really polished and have had a business for years and those that are just starting out. But we try to really have good communication with everybody that we have in the store and get things restocked so we can continue to support all the amazing people that have trusted us with their beautiful art.
So at Bookman's, I would say probably about 90% of the time it's a local artist reaches out to us. They either email us from just a default store email address to a default store email address, or they come in. Honestly, coming in is very nice because then usually they'll have examples of what they have and they can show it to me and we can talk about possibilities. There have been a few occasions where I've been to a Comic-Con or whatever, and I'll see a local artist there, and I'll be like, hey, your stuff would be great, email me if you're interested, that sort of thing. But most of the time your best bet is just to reach out to us directly. And you can reach out to all the different stores. We all have different buyers for different stores, and all have different customers at different stores. So one person might be interested in one type of product and one person might be interested in another type of product. So if you can always try reaching out to multiple locations just to see what works.
So with Ann Galleries, we're the newest location out of all of you. And we have a bit of a different vibe. We have more of the lowbrow art, the pop art, street art, designer toys, all of it. And we have two different sections. So we have our retail area and our gallery area. And so we usually do call to artists for the gallery portion, because that's the one where we have different themes for shows, and we used to handpick artists or artists that we used to work with frequently, and now we've opened up to doing it half call to artists and half handpick. And so that's for the gallery portion, and we have themes and everything, like a hip-hop art show, anime, lore art show. We had a psychedelic and weed art show, and those kind of things. And then we have a retail portion that's all about our merch, because we try to, one of the big things with Ann Gallery, I didn't want it to be like any other gallery where, there's expensive pieces, you could go in and see it, can't afford it. I want to make sure art is accessible for everybody. So we have our expensive pieces for the collectors and people that like having that. And then we make sure we have prints and other merch because it's all about the art culture, and it's all art in itself, whether it's earrings, prints, stickers, keychains, clothing, all of it. And for having stuff in the merch area, we are very particular about it because we still want to make sure it doesn't come off like it's cheap art. We still want it to be presentable. We still want it to look good. We still want it to be all that. So we look for artists that fit our theme. And like if you go into a gallery and you look around, you'll know if your art fits or not. And if it doesn't, it's okay. We could always direct you to other places that it does fit because we love all different forms of art. But yeah, and then after that, then we kind of look at like, okay, how are you printing your prints? Where are you getting your merch done? Where are you doing this and that? And then we help you out from there on like making sure it's the standard of that gallery.
I know, wow. So as a community artist, what I do with the gallery and my time and within that space is engage with community. So a lot of times I'm at a school or the university, and sometimes I just identify community that enjoys painting and working and talking about social political art, and bringing that to the environment that's mostly for those that don't have access to it. And so Galeria Mitotera is the gallery furthest south of 22nd, and just being there is huge because we create a space for the folks that don't see themselves often represented in other institutions and museums, or they just feel maybe they don't know how to break the ice, with other shops or whatnot, or they feel most comfortable at the Galleria. But it's awesome because being a community artist and meeting all these folks is a really important time because of all the things that have gone on so far. That art has really become a source of therapy for a lot of folks, just to get that exercise out as a human. But my partner, my wife, has a better explanation of how we choose artists.
I take the technical lead. So inside the Galleria, we focus mostly, the artists and the makers that we showcase are queer, Latinx, Indigenous, and our BIPOC community in general, because we just felt like that's our focus. That's who we are, that's who our community is, and we wanted the gallery to reflect the immediate community and surroundings. So we have, similar to Ant Gallery, we have gallery walls where we have art for sale and up on display, and we have art shows, and then we have our retail area with local handmade, I get nervous. Local items, and then we also host mercaditos, which are pop-up markets. They're smaller scale. We do about 10 to 15 vendors every time, but we close our street on 28th, and they're outdoor, so we invite the community to come to that.
We have a fairly traditional model at this point. It's taken us a few years of pivots to get to where we're at, but the primary ways we work with artists is through either events or through the retail. So we started as pop-up workshops. We've been working with guest instructors since that began in 2015, bringing people in to teach their skill to other people in a casual environment to share what they do, and that's been a really rewarding experience for us, and hopefully vice versa. And we continue to do that, and that's really the core of our model. But as we moved into retail with the brick and mortars, we started with consignment. We were just kind of testing the waters, seeing if it would be a good model for us to do traditional selling people's art for them in a store environment, because we needed a space to host events. And it snowballed from there into now 2 brick and mortar shops. But we started with consignment. We were doing a lot on that level, especially with new artists, letting them bring a lot of product in, test it, see if it was working for our audience, testing pricing, going back and forth. Now that we've kind of gotten our footing, hopefully with 2 locations, on what we're selling and how we're selling it and who we're appealing to, we've shifted to primarily doing wholesale, which the difference between the two, if you're not familiar, consignment is you bring your work in, it's in the location, you get paid out when it sells. So typically once a month you'll get a payment based on how much of your work sold from that location. Whereas with wholesale, we're paying for your work up front, typically at a 50% markdown, and we're selling it at retail prices. So you get paid for your items you've already brought in, it's out of your hands, we've paid for it, it's on us now to sell it and make that money back. So we've shifted mostly to wholesale. I think it's a good, for the artists we're currently working with, it works really well because they like having that deposit, that payment to then order more goods for their other vendors or for markets. They get paid right away. Whereas we do have a couple people we still have consignment with because for them, they want to be able to bring as much work as possible. They see higher sales from bringing high volume in, and they sell a lot more and they make more money that way. So for us, it really just depends on the relationship with the vendor and what works best for them as well. So between events and retail, that's our main goal is make it work for whoever we are working with as far as artists and makers go. So when you are looking for new vendors to bring into the store or the gallery or to do a market, what's your first step? Where do you go to find those people? Do you have people coming to you all the time, and what avenues are they using, or what avenues do you want them to use to find you, and how do you seek out people that you want to work with as well?
We do have a website, so you can go on the website and write us an email and tell us there that you're interested in looking at work. We have designated somebody at the shop that looks at all of those, and then we do try to get back to everybody because it's really a bummer when you've kind of put yourself out there and you're kind of just twiddling your thumbs. And there are many reasons that happens, and I think it's really important that you try not to take it personally because it happens to everybody. Just keep going, just try somebody else, and not everything is for everyone. So just focus on what you're doing. If you love it, just continue to put it out there. So I would say that for sure. So yeah, Made in Tucson Market, we also have just released the application, so please go ahead and you can put in an application for that. We try to keep it really reasonable. It's a one-day event. We try to keep the fee low so that everybody can kind of try it. And we're a similar model, meaning that we still kind of have some that we buy out and some that we do wholesale, so we do both at the shop. And for similar reasons, because people that have a lot, they want to try a lot of different things. It does give opportunities to see what works and see what doesn't.
So like I said in the previous question, I mean, most people just reach out to us either via email or in person. It's a pretty informal process. Like there really isn't an application or anything. It's just kind of like bring in your stuff and see if if it's a good fit. And then once you bring in your stuff, we'll talk about price points and what particular things that you have we might be more interested in or what we think might work better. That's the main way how we get it. We haven't had as many events, since the pandemic, but hopefully they will start trickling back. But we have in the past have had, like local artist fairs and stuff in our store. And so people can set up to have a table and they can sell their own stuff there, but that's also a great way to get your foot in the door for having your stuff actually just in the store because, then we can meet you and we can see people engaging with your stuff and that really helps. But yeah, that's about it.
So for us, it's kind of become a little bit more strict the past year or so because we've been getting so many submissions and we're a small staff. It's 3 of us that run the whole gallery. So so again, we have the 2 different portions at N Gallery. We have the retail section and then we have the gallery section. And that could fit 2 very different artists because there's some artists that make originals and that's it. And then there's others that love making merch, some make the prints, some make the keychains, so on, that we can sell them there. So for the gallery portion, we do call to artists and we do it once every 3 months. And we actually have one coming up the end of this month that's going to be for next year. And it'll be for our different shows upcoming. So make sure you follow the application process because we get hundreds of applications. And if you do not follow it right, I'm just going to be bold, I'll just say it up front. It's going to it shows that you're going to be difficult to work with. And at any given time, I'm working with like 100 artists because I have one show coming up next month, and then I'm planning a show for 2 more months. Plus, I'm doing an event with some other place, so that could be 20 artists for one show, 20 artists for another, then 30 for another. So it could be, and that's not even for the people that we regularly work with. So it's very, very important that you follow applications, what they say, and do it exactly what's on there. And that's how it's going to be with all galleries. Like, all galleries are going to be the same way. So it's, again, like, show professionalism, and that's going to take you a long way, because the easier you are to work with, the more I'm going to want to work with you. And that, again, goes on to our retail. So if, like, let's say you're an artist and we had you, usually we start everything off on consignment if you're a new artist, and we're like, okay, let's try out consignment, see how you do. And then let's say things start selling really well, then we'll be like, okay, these items are doing great, we're gonna start doing wholesale for you. And then the more you continue to be great to work with, the more we're gonna buy stuff from you. So it's just like simple as, if we say communicate through email, communicate through email. Don't send us messages on Instagram, on Facebook, on this and that, but we send a question in email and then you answer it there, then it gets all over the place. And then it sucks because I don't want people to get upset at us for it, but it is really hard. Like I said, we're working with like 100 people at any given time, and that's why it's very important to stay on top of that stuff, because it's going to make your life easier and our life easier. And again, like the type of work we're looking for, you'll see it in the store. If you're, let's say, a new artist to Tucson and it's your first time in Ant Gallery and you're like, I would fit in here, let us know. Like, you could talk to our employees, myself, and we'll give you a card and you just email us. We don't do Instagram like messages, DMs. We don't do Facebook DMs. And we post that on there too, because it just turns into a mess. Because Instagram and everything, we're usually just resharing, we're posting stuff, we're posting product, this and that. It's not really a place to have these conversations. And also, we want to respect your art. So we want to give your art the time. We want to be able to look at it through an email. We don't want to do it in passing on our social media platform, or even, this has happened before too, where people bring in their art to the gallery, and let's say we're in the middle of putting up a fixture or we're putting up a show. We don't want to be rude and be like, okay, your art's cool. We're like, oh, that's fine. And we didn't even really look at it because our mind is elsewhere. So it is very important to not do that yourself, because you could break your own heart doing that. And we don't want to disrespect anyone's art. So that's why we have these strict applications. So that way we do give time to your art and all of that.
I love it. I'm like, and? No, that's her response, and? No, it happens really often because Tucson's such a personal space. People, as big as it is, as small as it becomes, we each know each other for different reasons. For whatever, we know each other. It's like less than 6 degrees.
Little big.
It's little big, and it does become overwhelming. My wife handles a lot of those things. I handle that when you're in person, and I'm like, let me see what you got, But absolutely, I do feel you on all of the like when you say all those things, but it's really hard because that's what makes our Galeria space just a little bit different, because sometimes it could be a hot topic, like something that we want to exhibit, and we might meet that artist because they're coming from Mexico, and they're like, hey, like we have this whole show going on, but we didn't have time to, meet with MOCA or meet with the university, and then they're like, ask Galeria Mitotera, because it's super important and it reaches the audience we need to talk to. People are aware of these things. So sometimes it happens, and you'll find yourself at the Galeria where it's like, okay, how are we going to talk about Hostile Terrain 94, which is coming? But it's a hot topic. And we kind of face those kind of spaces with the artist. So from time to time, it will go through a very professional process that we use on Instagram. But I No, I know, but the only reason why, because it goes directly to one space, and because it's only the two of us, and really, like, my wife is handling Wizard of Oz, like, with all this creativity, you know, and it's wild, and so it becomes a lot. But the main purpose for us as a Galeria when we're meeting new artists is sometimes that's how that Mercadito and the Made in Tucson kind of process came up, because then we give the micro business or the artist, the local artist, the opportunity to go out there and set your table up, set the tent up, and you know what, guess what? You create a space and a zone, people will feel your art. That's visual communication and things like that. And a lot of times, it's a testing zone for us people that have a gallery space. We're like, oh, this person can handle it. Like, let's call them back. Because we want people, we love this energy. It's a space where we can share in community, can share in thoughts, can share in being local and supportive, and just being in our space for a global discussion here in a very intimate Tucson. But when there's a professional process, you talk to Melissa.
Oh, well, you can tell how we are, right? So with the Galeria, with art shows, usually ours have been invitational, just because we have a very small gallery space. But as far as we work on consignment and wholesale, similarly to what Teresa was saying, like we like to start a lot of our artists out on consignment and feel it out. And we, for the Mercaditos, we were getting a lot of folks. Let me back up. I always suggest when people reach out, like on social media or even on email, and they say they want to participate in our Mercaditos or they'd like to consign with us, I always ask, have you come to the space? Have you been to a Mercadito? And I highly encourage that because I want people to know what our market feels like. Every market has a different environment, different feeling. You know, we have a DJ at ours that plays a lot of cumbias and like, you know, fun stuff. And that's where I start with all the vendors. Like, come and meet us. And meeting us doesn't mean bring all your things in to meet with us. It just means come in, because for Mel and I, it's a very personal relationship with our artists because we are about community. So we like to meet the artist and just get to know you. So I tell everybody, just stop by so you can see what the gallery looks like. Because yeah, you've seen the pictures on Instagram, but when you come in, everybody always says, I had no idea it looked like this. So that's where I always start. And then with Mercaditos, I created a Google form for vendors to sign themselves up because messages were getting lost. I was getting lots of people wanting to be interested and sending me DMs and even emails, and it's a lot for me to track because Mel doesn't look at any of that stuff. So the Google form is very helpful and it's very easy because I tell the vendors, you know, these are the questions I need from you, and I get their handles and their website, so then I can take a look at what they have. And I curate each Mercadito so that I have a good selection of different things for the public to come and experience, because you know there might be several macrame makers, there might be several people making chiles enchilados or candies enchilados, or you know, all kinds of things, but I really like to mix it up and give everybody an opportunity. So yeah, but DMs, emails, phone calls, and visits work. Just don't bring all your stuff.
There were definitely some common threads throughout those responses that I'm going to reiterate on. Like Dee Dee mentioned, for most of us who are buyers for our stores or galleries, that is one of 35 hats we're wearing. So there's a lot of other factors at play when we're wearing that buying hat, and it's very rarely when we're in the store. So for me, at least, I know when I'm in the shop and someone brings their work in, it's very hard for me to put aside whatever else it is I'm doing in the store to give it the proper respect and time it needs to look at it. It's also a lot of pressure to look at someone's artwork when they're standing in front of you and you've just met them and they want you to buy it. So that's a lot. It's much easier, and it's a mindset shift when you go into buying mode or curating mode for a market, and you can go through, for us it's emails are the way to go. Again, DMs get really busy We try to respond to every DM and say, hey, please email us your line sheet or your catalog or photos or pricing, whatever is most accessible for you, but just please put it in an email. Because I'm the buyer, I'm also one of the owners. I also have a job. I also, there's a lot of things going on. I have to put my buying hat on when it's the right season, when we have the budget, when there is something that's in demand from customers, when there's a holiday coming up. There's so many factors with buying that go so far beyond my personal affinity for your work. I would love to carry so much work that I'm a fan of, that I personally admire. It may not be the best fit for the shop. I don't want you to send me work that's not gonna sell. I do my best to direct people to the right location. When it's not the right fit for us, it might be a pricing thing. It might be, we have 6 other vendors right now that we are carrying with very similar work. It might be our customers want this color palette this season versus this one. There's so many things that aren't personal to the work you're creating that go into that buying decision. A lot of times it's just our budget is maxed out. We just have very slim margins, and any small shop you work with is working with small business owners, and that means small margins because we're trying to give you as much money for your work as you can get. We're trying to make as much money as we can get for your work with keeping it accessible, so it just means we're operating on really, really slim margins. So more often than not, it's just, hey, we're out of money. I'd love to buy your work, but give me 3 months, give me a Christmas season, give me a back to school season, and then I'll loop back around. Maybe send me an email to loop back around because I always need a follow up. I love a repeat email, honestly. Like, email me as much as you want because my inbox is always filled with inquiries. Multiple DMs, it's gonna go to someone else, they're gonna tell you to go to email me. So I agree with what was said. It's really hard in person. As much as I would love to spend every day, all day looking at people's art and spending money on it, it's just not realistic for a small business owner. That being said, everyone is different. Savannah, bring her your work. Come into Bookman's, bring it all in. So that's your opportunity. But I think it's just important to keep in mind, like Dee Dee said, is we're all doing a lot of jobs. We're all working really hard. It's not personal. If you don't hear back from us, I can get to my inquiries folder, because I have a folder, once every 2 months, honestly, where I go in and I know that we're going to do a big buy, because we typically just repeat buy from our current vendors on an ongoing basis. Every couple of months, like once a season, is when I think, okay, here's what I need for next season. I'm going to go into my folder first. My inquiries folder is my first place I go. And I'm going to look through all those emails and see who's a good fit for what we're bringing in for this season. So you might not hear back for a few weeks, for a couple of months. Even if you hit me at the very end of Christmas, I'm not coming back to that folder until spring season. So it's just, we all have to compartmentalize the best we can with all the tasks we have on our plate. So just keep that in mind. It's not personal. If we do get back to you and it's the wrong fit, I do my best to say, hey, here are all these other shops or galleries that would be a better fit for your work whenever possible. But my point being, just keep trying, keep reaching out to shops. We do go through Instagram, have an Instagram. We do go to markets. I'm really happy that markets and events are happening again for a variety of reasons, but for buying, it's great because we want to see your work in person, and that's when we're in the buying mindset. We can go to a market and we can see everything. Tonight's a great opportunity. I guarantee I'm going to pick up vendors tonight because this is where we get to see your work and hold it and experience it and really get to interact with it. So markets are a great opportunity. So if you're on the fence about doing markets, I highly encourage it, especially like Made in Tucson or Mercaditos. Like, these are markets being put on by shops. If you want to be in that shop, apply to that market because they're going to see you and they're going to see your work. We also use platforms like Fair and Bulletin, if you're familiar with those. Those are great for us as a small business because we get terms, we get really easy user experiences, we get credit, we get a lot of perks from those platforms that help us with our margins. So if you have questions about those platforms, please, again, or anything else we've talked about so far tonight, raise your hand. We're happy to address the questions. But those platforms are great for us. But for us, yeah, when we're looking for new vendors, my first place is that email inquiry folder. I'll go on Instagram and look. Hillary will go to markets in Tucson for me. I go to markets in Phoenix. We travel for markets whenever possible to see people in other places, and then just try and find people however we can. So,
Just wanted to add something. Mel and I do go to a lot of markets. Mel doesn't like it because I like to shop, but that is another way where we do travel to different communities. We have some great relationships with the Latinx community in Denver as well. So, but what I wanted to say was with our sign-up list on our Mercaditos, I have heard that people get frustrated because I don't get them plugged into the markets right away. But I have 100 people at least rotating on that spreadsheet, that Google sheet constantly. And if they're very similar makers to another, it takes a while to get through the rotation. So I just wanted to also say that sometimes it's not because you're not being selected, it's just because there's no room yet. So the patience is the key with all of us. Again, like we're small. There's just a few of us on most of our staff, so.
Perfect. That was the other comment that I was going to add. We're 4 full-time people and 2 part-time shop people between 2 locations, plus events. It's hard to keep up with. I'm the primary buyer. I thankfully have great help in inputting orders and running events and all these things, and everyone else I can agree, I'm sure there's just a lot going on. So my best piece of advice is don't take anything personally and follow up. Because again, I'm not bothered by an email that comes back and says, hey, I know you're busy. Here's one more thing about my work that's gonna make it great for your shop. That stands out to me significantly, and that's the one I'm gonna stop and say, I'm gonna put my buyer's hat on and I'm gonna look at their work right now. Like that's gonna stop me and make me prioritize it. So I highly encourage setting yourself apart, which segues into a question, but first I want to address an audience question. I'm gonna come to you.
Hi, I'm a maker, but I also have a full-time job. And I know my struggle right now for the past 2 years is obviously juggling both. But now that we're talking about markets, I always find out too late about them. So does anyone, and I wanted to open this question, a question to a question, does anyone know of a platform, or has anyone created a platform where they sort of put all the markets that are going on throughout a year, like a one-stop shop sort of area?
Yeah.
Sounds great. So clearly not that we know of. Honestly, I think the best bet and how I find out is just from making sure when I see that there's a market happening, I find their Instagram and I follow it, and I just make sure that I'm paying attention. Add it to your Google Calendar or your paper planner, whatever your preference is, that you know it's happening every spring or every holiday. And just, you gotta track it yourself at this point, because
There's so many happening.
there's so many. Oh.
I was gonna say also, just like, if you, sorry.
Hi.
I'm not really excited about the microphone. I was just gonna piggyback on that. Like there's not a platform that I know of, but I am a part of like an email group with other vendors, and that is super special and so cool for sharing information like that, because there's, we got a little message today that was like, does anybody know of any markets going on next week? And just sharing that with other vendors is really like enriching and helps you get to places that you didn't know about. So if there's anybody that you can reach out to, that's the way to go.
Can Creative Kind send that out to their Instagram and go?
The email list? Is that the question? It's not my email list, but
Yeah, it's not. It's just like one vendor was like, "Hey, do you guys want to join this group with me? Create one. Create one with vendors that you know and share information." It's really been great, and it's
there is a
super cool.
Facebook group as well that Ashley White started a while back called Tucson Artisans and Makers, and she's really been good about at least popping in every few months and saying, hey, does anyone know any shows that are happening? So, and you wanted to add something?
I was just gonna say that's why it's important to do your research and visit these markets to see where you feel that you would fit in and where you feel comfortable, and like Teresa said, is follow those markets so then you know when they're because sometimes you can apply to all the markets and you end up there and you're like, wait, this is not my vibe. So
But a response to your question, I just met someone at a market like 3 days ago, and she is in the process of making her own app, which highlights all of the markets for the season, and it's called Vendor Village app. It's still like, she's like constructing it as we speak. She is looking for help in kind of getting some advice, but what I've seen from the app, it's pretty amazing, and it's like a good way to, again, just see all the markets happening, so you don't, miss it.
My question is, if you're sending an email inquiry and you don't want to like send a bunch of attachments, and I know even links can be iffy, like do you have any suggestions for like what type of format would be helpful to show some of your work via email?
I can speak to that one as a big email person, and I'll happily pass it along. For us, my ideal is a digital catalog. Like that for me makes it really easy for me to know, and in that catalog I want to see, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be like styled lifestyle photos of all your products. I don't need you to rent an Airbnb and take pictures of everything. It's great, love it, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. Go on Canva, put a grid together of your individual products, put things like the pricing per product, if there's any minimums, like you need to order 6 of these stickers in order to make an order, or if you have a minimum order value, you have to spend $100 to place an opening order. Highly recommend having all of these terms in place, by the way, because it helps you a lot. But minimum order quantity, minimum order value, pictures of the product, sizing, dimensions is great, especially for things like stickers and prints and things, shirts, all of that. Having that in a PDF attachment, perfect. Have SKUs, just so that if I want to go through and say, I don't want to type out, I love Tucson t-shirt size, small, medium, extra, like all of that information, have it be SKU number 321, and I can say I want 10 of these, 10 of these, 10 of these, and I can list it in an email, and it makes it really easy for me. If you have the capability, the second alternative to that, which costs a little bit more time and money, is having a wholesale website. And that might be as simple as putting a password on your existing e-commerce site that puts a 50% discount on prices, and it shows the user, here's all my products, here's the wholesale price, and it has all that product description information on it. That makes it really easy as well. And then I can go through and I can create a cart and I can check out, and you've got an order and you haven't even had to email back about it. That's great. Yes, the website is honestly great. I know though it does take more investment of your time and your energy and cost and all of that. So, but it can be as simple again as password protecting it. You don't even have to give them a discount code. We have vendors that give us a discount code for the shop, and we just put that at the end. So I know when I go into their website, I'm seeing retail prices. I create a cart, I put my code in, it discounts it to whatever the discount is we've agreed on, and I check out. They get paid, they got an order. It's super easy. I've seen everything just like a customer would, and that makes it really seamless. If you're not there yet website-wise, a catalog is the next best thing. From that, I know there's vendors that are still working off of Instagram or maybe a really simple Shopify site or doing markets, and I've had them send me, hey, here are my 5 products that I think are gonna do really well for your store because they're Tucson themed, they're Arizona themed, they're deserty, they're cute, they're quirky, whatever it might be. Here's what they cost, here's the dimensions, and I'll say, give me 10 of each, give me 20 of each. But that's the simplest way to do it, is just those image attachments. But that would be my hierarchy. Website, catalog, PDF on Canva, whatever app you like to use, and then a few images with pricing, and your terms and your turnaround time is great as well.
Also, I know we've been talking about consignment and wholesale a lot, but I know a lot of artists haven't done that before. So don't be afraid of passive income. I highly encourage all artists to try it out, because I know it sometimes sounds scary where it's like, oh my God, I have my product, I price it for whatever price it is, and selling it at 50% off is kind of like, oh my God, that's a lot. But no, like, as long as you're selling, you put those limitations like we were talking about, where it's like you have to buy 10 stickers or 10 prints or this and that. It's not going to hurt you. It will be better for you in the long run, because then you'll have your stuff in a store. People will see you, people will follow you. The store's going to end up wanting to buy more of your stuff. You're still going to be doing markets. You'll have your own store, so you'll still be selling there. It's going to help you grow. So don't be afraid of passive income. It's good for you.
I wanted just to piggyback on that. do a lot of wholesale, and I always think of it as marketing. So you're not gonna get rich on wholesale, but it'll get your product out there to a lot of people that you couldn't reach. Different states, different areas, and so it kind of hurts seeing your products at a 50%, but once you see it out there in different states and on the internet, it's like amazing. And then most of those people come back to your website directly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just jumping back onto the email question specifically, this probably goes without saying. Obviously it's not an issue there, but don't be vague in your emails. The number of times I've just gotten an email that's like, "Hi, I'm interested in selling postcards in your store." No pictures, no indication of what it's on it, or it's like, "I'm a photographer, I'd love to sell stuff," and I'm like, "Great."
Like that's my response. What postcards?
Yeah. So and that's the, I mean it goes back to like making it so we want to work with you, because if you can't even communicate that clearly enough, it kind of signals to me that, oh, this is going to be difficult because I'm going to have to pull information from you. So like I might respond to that email just to see what it is, but you're much more likely to get a positive response if you put your stuff out there. Either, I mean, if you've got a catalog or if you've got a website, that's awesome. But I mean, people will send me their Instagrams, people will send me their Etsy pages. Even just a few nice JPEGs of their stuff it'll get the job done, as long as I can see what it is, and we can go from there.
I had one more thing to add. This is speaking more to the selling original side. Sell your artwork. Unless you speak to us about it beforehand, I am very picky about what artwork I will show that's not for sale. So it's, again, like, it's something that all artists kind of need to do, and set your expectations of what you want to do with your art. Because we get it all the time where people come in and are like, "Oh my God, a gallery, this is great. I want to show my art." It's like, cool, but I don't want to sell it. And then it's like, okay, then you know our business, right? It's like we have rent, we have employees, we have all this stuff. Which, like, I completely understand if you're attached to your artwork and you don't want to sell it, or there's whatever other things that you can't sell it. There are certain times where we will be like, okay, is this going to bring people in the door? Who does this speak to? Like, how could this benefit us? And that needs to be a conversation that needs to happen, instead of just applying, we approve you, and then here's your artwork, and you're like, I don't want to sell it. Then it's like, oh my gosh, okay. It's like, because that you also have to think, like, that could be taking a space from someone else that does need that money, that does want to sell it, that is, like, working really hard to, like, do all of that. So again, if you're going to be showing originals in an art gallery, do it with the intent to sell.
And if you don't want to sell those original pieces, think about merchandising them in a different way. So making prints, we've had pieces of Mel's that have indeed, as postcards, things, stickers, and people love that. And it also increases accessibility, and it will broaden your collector base in the long run, because if somebody picks up a sticker and they fall in love with your art, they'll keep wanting to buy things until they can afford the original.
I also want to add on to the point about wholesale and not getting rich on wholesale. You can get rich on wholesale. There are certain forms of art where you might not, but if you're doing stickers, prints, t-shirts, things that you can manufacture quickly and efficiently, your cost for that manufacturing per item, the more you make of it, is going to go way down. So if you're selling I would generally say, if you're doing wholesale, that retail price needs to be 4 times the cost to make it. That gives you a really good margin, so when you're selling wholesale, you're still making 50%. If you can keep increasing that margin for yourself and for the shops you're working with, they're gonna keep buying it, you're gonna keep making it, you're gonna keep driving those costs down, because you're saving time, you're saving energy, you're saving material, you're gonna be producing a lot of work faster, more efficiently, at less cost, and you're gonna be selling a lot more work. So absolutely see it when you're starting out from a marketing standpoint. That is a huge asset. Being in a store, getting visibility, getting those follows, putting your card or sticker in the back with your handle on it. But once you keep doing wholesale and you build a reputation and you get really good at it, where you're doing it in a really professional, efficient way, and you're driving those costs down, if your goal is to make a lot of money, you can make a lot of money doing that. So I just want to add that amendment is there's definitely ways to be very, very self-sufficient and successful in selling your work through wholesale channels because you're saving yourself so much time and cost and all of that with the more you do. So just something to consider as an alternative opinion. Granted, House of Hatters does incredible work and it's very custom and it would be hard to replicate that work on a mass scale. So it varies. I'd say charge more, you should. But if you're doing things that are easy to manufacture, you can absolutely make a lot of money doing it. So.
Do you mind if I piggyback off the merchandising thing? Okay. Hi, my name is David. I'm actually here because that's specifically all I'm doing is artist merchandising. So we're launching a company next month where we specifically work with artists to come up with creative merchandising ideas they weren't doing before. So we're launching a set of artist trading cards next month. So we work with 11 different artists of all varieties of types, from sculpture work to mural work. So we're just here to do something that's more interesting than stickers. You can do that all yourselves. So we're coming up with creative things, trading cards, 3D printed puzzles, comic books, things like that. So obviously can't meet everyone in the room, but if you're interested, you want to talk with me, I'd love to meet some of you guys. So Ink and Staples. So we've been doing artist documentaries for a number of years now, and so we're kind of branching out into more ways of kind of helping promote artists. Documentaries is great, they've been doing great, but we're trying to find different ways of kind of promoting your guys' work. So that's what we're here for. Ink and Staples. So our website launches next month, but we have our YouTube page if you want to check that out. I have cards and everything else. So.
We are at or just past 7. I know I have more questions if you all want to hang out, but I want to prioritize any audience questions. So I want to pause really quickly. Anyone have anything that they want to add? Cool. All right, I think the last question I'll throw at you guys is, how does an artist or maker stand out for you? And I know we've talked about coming into the space, seeing if it's a good fit, identifying if the aesthetic matches what you're going for, if they're selling the kinds of products you're looking for, maybe there's a gap in what they are selling where there's complementary products. Maybe they sell coffee mugs and tea mugs and they're not selling coffee. Put my coffee in your store, that's a great approach. But what are ways for you guys when you get an email or you get an inquiry or someone comes to you and it stops you and you think, I need to give this some time and energy, maybe get this into the store ASAP. What are those standout qualities that you look for?
Well, I would say that right now we're making sure that Pop Cycle looks like the community that it's in, so I think we're definitely prioritizing that. And I think kind of what you guys reiterated, it's like, it was giving me super anxiety because we also make stuff, so we not only have that's why we started the store. And I think it's super easy to feel completely overwhelmed and maybe that you're not doing it right or you're not doing it perfect. It's just a process. You're gonna have to work through these things. I mean, you're gonna hear a lot of no's. I'm sure all of you have heard a lot of no's also. So, but if you love it, just keep on doing it. So, and I think the easier you make it for the people that are on this side, I mean, I have to say, we do prioritize people with good energy, with people that appreciate what we're doing. We're grateful for them, so that when we feel their gratitude, we make sure that we prioritize those people. So I would say being aware of what's happening in the situations and kind of giving back, because it's a two-way street. Like, it's not fun. It wouldn't be fun for us if we didn't have kind of a two-way street.
So for me, I feel like what I often look for is something that looks polished and is like retail ready in a way that requires not so much effort from me, because that's the thing. I mean, you know, we'll take stuff from people sometimes where it requires like us kind of packaging it in a certain way or displaying it in a certain way, but anything you can do to make it more displayable, more, presentable. So all I have to do is like put a price sticker on it and put it on a table and it looks beautiful, or, put it on a peg and it looks great. That makes my life so much easier, and I'm so much more likely to keep coming back to you. So yeah, I cannot stress enough. I mean, if you can make your own labels for things, plus I like that anyway, because lots of times it'll either indicate that it's a local artist, which is great for us. We like to, get as many local and community people as possible, because I think customers like to see that. Like, that makes them more likely to pick up a product and actually get it if they see that it's coming from their own community. So labeling and that sort of thing can be really useful there. And it just adds to an overall sense of like professionalism with the product. But yeah, just make your stuff look as presentable as possible, and that'll go a long way to that sort of thing.
So for us, it's again like if you go into N Gallery, you'll gauge there's a certain attitude. So we're looking for art that stands out, that's loud, that's different, and again the same thing as you were talking about, where we look for how it's presented. So if it's easier for us to just quickly put it up on a shelf, like if it's bags and boards, and if it's printed on quality paper, and if it's, again, we're in a digital age, so we work a lot with digital artists. So again, artists, make sure you have the right DPI and canvas sizes, so that way we're not taking in, because again, like we have to look at it. If it doesn't look of quality, people aren't going to buy it. We've kind of tried it out before, where like some digital artists brought in pieces where the DPI was incorrect, and you could tell it's blurry or pixelated, and it just doesn't move, and that just it's hard, because then it's like that just, we don't want it to look bad on you as an artist or bad as us as a gallery. So that's another thing we're trying to work on, is doing workshops to help people out with like doing digital art, because now we have Procreate. That's an amazing program that everybody's using, but we have to teach people how to use that, because we also do printing in N Gallery, but we're selective about that too, because we're a small staff. And then same thing with originals, is making sure everything is framed properly. When you paint your canvases, make sure you paint them all the way around, not just the front canvas, and that kind of stuff. And also, we're in an age of social media, and I know it's a thing where, of course, like it doesn't matter if you have hundreds of followers or thousands or not, but at the same time, if we look at your social media and we see that you're dedicated and that you're posting a lot of your art and you're talking about it and doing that, that really does go a long way. So it's, again, like us artists, because I'm an artist myself, I understand, is we have to make our art, we have to market it, we have to sell it, we have to do all the social media stuff, but it really does go a long way if we're like going through your application and we go to your Instagram or your Facebook and we see that you post no art. It kind of is like, I'm gonna go to another artist that I see is posting it and they're dedicated and they're putting in that time and effort. I will more than likely go to them. So that kind of stuff matters. And I know it sounds superficial, but again, like I was saying, we're putting in a lot of work in our social media as well, and we're gonna be presenting you as well, and we're gonna be tagging you, we're gonna be putting you out there, and we're gonna put your tags on your artwork in the store so people could follow you, and we want you to have that same love and dedication as well.
All these answers are so professional. I'm like, oh my God, those are all the things I forgot to do. But you know what, when you get to that space where, because that's the thing too, and as speaking as an artist myself, a lot of times there are things that I enjoy painting, and you know, my wife will look at it and be like, what were you doing when you painted that, you know? But in honestly, like, being an artist is being a storyteller, and you're letting people individually meet you as they see your art. So all of these things, it does add up to like, oh, people can find you, they're interested in things like that. And so because I'm the creative side, or I don't know, more just the artsy side of the Galeria, that from time to time I will find artists, and a lot of times we're like, oh, it's a female artist, this is great, or she's from Nogales or Hermosillo. We want to highlight this artist because they're telling a story that I haven't seen yet. And so a lot of times that's the fun part of the art, scene. When you're doing markets or you have your own galeria, is that you get to meet all of you folks in the audience. You get to meet them individually and see what your Instagram stories like. And so for those reasons, for me, it's a passion, and I get entertained looking at things. And sometimes it's sometimes it's a straight pass for me. I'm like, oh, Melissa, you check this out, and then she'll give me her better eye and be like, oh my God, this is so cute. I'm like, oh. So thankfully there's the two of us, that there's a process, and sometimes they lend to each other like, oh, we should exhibit this because it's a historical moment in time right now. And Melissa will make it work and get people to see the whole story behind the artist and how we're sharing time with each other. And so sometimes it could be a little added flavor when you tell people your story or your reason why you're excited to paint. What's that turn on for you? Or what, sometimes like you said, it doesn't fit in my gallery, but it fits at the citizen in that room where I thought, you know what I mean? So there's places and spaces, and sometimes even if those you're not looking to be exhibited, or you're not looking to work a pop-up mercadito, maybe you just need a critique. You come in and get our advice and be like, hey, change that shit, or whatever. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're open to that, and you know what? It's breaking the ice for a lot of the artists. We know a chef that they became more of an experienced chef because they're transgender and they dress in drag and they cook phenomenal in drag. And I'm like, whatever it takes to break the ice, But we meet people, so sometimes it's just those things, like you need to break the ice. You're like, I'm super shy, and can you do that? Whatever it is, sometimes it's just a question like today on this panel. We're open to those kinds of things because we had great mentorship from Dee Dee and Shannon at Pop Cycle and things like that. They've been really huge in mentoring me as at the time I was a young artist. Now I'm old, but you know what I mean? It's that whole experience because what Dee Dee shared with me in this community space with Tucson Local is recycle. And I was like, hell yes, because then that makes artwork accessible even to the artist that doesn't have the money to do the material stuff. But yes, you gotta find that personality in that piece of wood or that junk and turn it around, and that's what turns on the whole artist experience, and coming and visiting Tucson and taking a piece of Tucson with you wherever your visitors go. And so Dee Dee and that mentorship and that leadership has really shown us how we're gonna work South 4th Avenue as a historical space as well, and looking at all of the historical murals that are there, some that need retouching, and some spaces that just need markers, so that you can continue this visual historical space, and getting to know more of Tucson. So that's how we find our artists. A lot of times it's not just the material object, sometimes it's the fantastic story that is you.
Awesome. The only thing I have to add is, I am the shy one of the two of us, and I always gravitate to the artists and the makers that are the quiet ones. So even if you're shy and you're not ready to come in and meet anybody in person, send that email, ask your questions. Don't be afraid to ask your questions. We all have been in your space where we can acknowledge all the questions and understand them because we've all been there. And just continue to move forward and be gracious and, like you said, gracious, kind, and know that this ends up being a large community because as you do markets and as you start being in stores and knowing shop owners, you will all get to know each other and we all become a big community. So always keep that in mind as well.
I would echo everything that was already said. There's not a whole lot to add on to that, but I would, branching off of it, I think the important thing to remember, and for all of the speakers up here, and I assume for all of the artists and makers in the room, none of us are doing what we're doing purely to make a lot of money. We're not capitalists that are trying to take advantage of anything to make a quick buck or to get rich. there's a lot of values behind what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. So a big standout for me when I'm going through emails or I get a chance to look at DMs or whatever it might be, if I see the person addressing a value that we've been addressing, maybe when we were posting about abortion rights or we were posting about things that matter to us as a business and things we use our platform to be vocal about, recycling, there's a lot of different values in play, but that's the core of why we do what we do, and I know it's the core of why a lot of you do what you do as well. So find that common ground with shops and bring it up. You know, in your email, address it. Talk about how you saw the post and that made you feel like it was a good fit for your work to be in that store or in that gallery or for that show. Bring your story into it. It's not just about the work, it's about the why behind it, and we all want to hear that, so make sure you are addressing it as best you can when you're reaching out to those stores, for sure. There was something else I was gonna add, and I forgot. I was listening to everybody so hard. But I would reiterate, making it really easy for us to bring your work in is crucial. That's definitely a stepping stone, making it as easy as possible for us to just put it on the floor. Help us out. Small staffs, like, you know, have the prices ready, have it ready to sell, have it produced, have your turnaround time be quick. All of that really is instrumental for us in getting it out. Or have the work ready to be presented. All of that is crucial. So definitely keep those things in mind. I would also add, and you addressed this a little bit, going off of that values point, there's a reason behind why we're all doing it, and a big part of it is because we want to sell your work. We want to put your work into the world. We want to put our work into the world. We want to share our value platform with other people that have the same ones as customers. So keep that in mind as well, and don't be shy about asking questions. If you email me and you're like, can I get 30 minutes on your calendar just to ask about what I can do to make my work suitable for your shop or to make it fit another shop or whatever I can do to prepare myself to sell my work, I care about selling your work. There's a reason we're all here tonight doing this event. It's a big value base for me. I want to help you, so I'm going to do my best to be available to you. But just send me an email and ask for the time, because I'm going to give it to you, and I think we can all agree that we would all do the same.
During COVID, I started like 5 years ago, but during COVID, Lauren from Sigfist, she was sort of my mentor to kind of take it to the next step. And she created, there's a platform called Patreon, I think it is.
Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. And so there you can learn, or a lot of artists create like a platform where they teach you how to price your things and how to get into wholesale, like a lot of good tools.
Yeah. It's a lot of good platforms. It was me. Just saying there's a lot of good platforms out there.
There are a lot of good platforms,
Yeah.
yes. I would add one that I love and I actually went through myself and I've worked with
yeah.
her for years. It's called Proof to Product. She's based out of Los Angeles. I have known her for years. She's an incredible woman. If you're in paper goods and gifts and stationery and all that especially, do Proof to Product. She walks you through wholesale, doing trade shows. If you're ready to really scale and start manufacturing a lot of your goods, that's the way to go. Again, Proof to Product. Katie Hunt, tell her I sent you. She's a lovely woman and she will help you immensely. It's a well worth the investment. She's an ongoing membership as well where you can get monthly support. And part of it is you're just joining a community of people, and it's the same for Patreon and other platforms. It's a community of people, like all the people in this room, so please do your best to socialize and network and talk to people tonight as well, because we're all here for the same reason. We're all going through the same struggles, we're all facing the same obstacles, we're all at different stages, so there's a really good opportunity to learn from each other here as well.
You know what it is that a lot of us are serial entrepreneurs. We're like, can't get enough. I think, right? And then we're here at the Citizen, so you see all these things, and like you said, like there might be something special. We might be able to help each other in this network tonight. You know, that we get to know each other's faces. You have our time and space now, not on Zoom. So it's all of these great things. So it's just really nice to hear everybody that some of the things that you already know. And that you make time tonight to just listen in and see, like, hey, you know what? After COVID, you guys made it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a big thing for everybody in this room too. So thank you for all of that. You know, being here and taking the time for us. I appreciate it.
I'll take that. Oh, yes.
So everyone here is pretty much like built a business. So on more of the technical side of things, what is something that you maybe like a tool, a platform, or like a certain thing that you invest more money in that you think is super valuable to
Unassisted.
I would say I'm best in taking a class or watching videos on how to take good product photos. Because that will help when you are ready to start building a website. So that's the hardest thing and most time-consuming thing to learn, but it will be so beneficial. And there are also other there, like in Tucson, there's Startup Tucson. You might want to look at their website. They offer different classes and programs for entrepreneurs. So even if you think like, oh well, I'm not like a startup company, you're a maker. You're starting your company, so you deserve to be there just as anybody else does.
iPhone was a great one, honestly, because if you're at a market and you can take Venmo or you can take Square cards, huge. I mean, Android, I assume as well. I'm sorry, I'm an iPhone person. But you can get great photos, like that is going to be critical. I'd also add Skillshare is a great platform to look at for just learning opportunities. That's a huge one. Shopify is a big one. If you're doing e-commerce, which you should be doing e-commerce or at least have some way for people to buy from you online, Shopify is my recommendation for that. Pretty low cost investment, but makes a big difference, makes it really easy. You can have Shopify POS when you're doing markets, inventory tracking, lots of opportunity there as well.
When it comes more to like taxes and like that kind of stuff at the end of the year, I have no idea what to do.
And that's the panel.
Is there a class that maybe we can look into for that kind of thing? Or
Let's address the tool question really quick, and if you have input on taxes, disclaimer, none of us are tax accountants or financial advisors. So if you have input on the tool or the tax advisement.
Real quick, before you buy a big tool, there's a lot of places here, including the university, that they allow you to go and use the laser cutter and all these things so that you don't go out and buy more of this material before you might, you're like, hey, I don't like using this material. You know what I'm saying? So before you get into buying something big, try to find that community that already has it and that lets you play with it or something before you spend the money.
For the tool thing, I will say again, marketing. Like you could either take marketing classes or honestly, like you could just go on YouTube and look up like marketing 101 things and just like learning basic marketing and presentation and also social media. Like really investing in that stuff will help you go a long way, because with that you're gonna learn how to sell your stuff online, doing the Shopify things and adding on more onto there. It's gonna change your mindset. So it'll change your mindset and help you with presenting your artwork in a different way rather than just like, oh, I made a thing, here it is. It's like, again, being like learning how to market and learning how the human mind works. Like, what was it? I've been doing marketing for years, and it used to be like, oh, it takes a human 9 times to register something in their brain to see it, and blah blah blah. And now it's like 30 because we get so much information. So it's again like training yourself to use social media better, all of that, and don't be afraid to post. If you ever feel annoying, do more. If you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm posting so much, it's like, okay, you're doing good. Keep doing that. Yes. And as far as the tax thing, write off everything. Write off everything. I write off my outfits for the gallery. I write off my nails. I write off everything. It's like, if it's something that you wore at a market, keep your receipt. You have your photos. You have all of that to say like, yes, this was a business thing. And yeah, just write off everything that you could possibly think of. Keep your receipts, photos, all that. Document everything. I know it's very tedious, but it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, so with taxes, there's this free software called Wave, which is like a QuickBooks, but it's a free version. So I've used that for years, and it's really easy to use. and it links to your bank account. Also want to say, backing up, if you have your business name and you haven't trademarked that, make sure you do that. I have been hearing, because through COVID, it sprouted a lot of entrepreneurship. And a lot of people started these, at first they were side hustles, right? And then they're doing really well, but they never trademarked their name that they gave themselves. They just put their name on Instagram. And I've heard some issues coming up lately because then they find out there's somebody else that has that name and they sent them a letter from an attorney. So make sure you do that. It's not hard to do. You go on the State of Arizona website and you do that. Also think about creating an LLC, which some people get afraid of that, but it's an easy process and it's actually, it's better for your business. So start with something like wave.com where you can go in and categorize your expenses and it uploads to get a checking account for your business. Separate everything. Do not commingle your funds with your personal bank account. There's some great local, we use 1AZ, I think PopCycle does too. They're a local credit union. But really think about those things of keeping things separate. It's safer for you in the long run. You won't get, you won't cause red flags when you do your taxes. And then when you get to a point where you are so busy and you're doing really well, you can hire a bookkeeper. We hired ours this year for the first time. But also, yeah, and and if you feel comfortable in doing your own, you can do your taxes at the end of the year. You can do it through TurboTax until, again, you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is a little overwhelming for me. Again, hire a professional to do that. And it's all for your best interest. So start out small, but there you go.
I was just gonna say, I know we were talking about tools, but the truth is that each other's community is actually the best tool that you're gonna have. I've learned more from other artists than I ever have from any platforms or stores or people that are willing to share. Link up with those people, and mostly people are super willing. And I think the other thing I would say is about social media and stuff is try really to step back. Don't present something that's not you. It won't be authentic and people will see right through it. So really, if you're gonna do this, then be yourself and be rooted in that and know who you are and put it out there and let other people see it. And some people will love it and they'll respond to it, some people won't. But just don't go on there and try to paint some picture that isn't realistic. And I don't think that's good for anybody. So.
I love you, Dee Dee.
Before we wrap up.
For tools, what apps like Canva or great things do you guys recommend? Because I know Canva has great templates.
Canva, Procreate.
And it's free, isn't it?
It is free to start. We also use TurboScan as far as keeping receipts and such. That takes a photo or creates a PDF of a photo. So every time you get a receipt, if it's paper, you just put it through TurboScan. It puts it into a folder in your Google Drive, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's a great one. Quick little hack. MileIQ, I think is the name of it, is another one that tracks your drives. You can expense your mileage and get money for your gas. That can be a huge write-off that people don't take advantage of. If you're driving, it doesn't count for us if we're driving to the shop, but if we're driving to Tucson from Phoenix to run an event, I'm gonna get reimbursed for my mileage. So we're gonna write that off as a tax expense. And that's a lot of money with the gas prices right now. It's 0.585 reimbursement for mileage. So write that off. Use MileIQ. It tracks all your drives. You swipe right or left on if it's a personal drive or a work drive, and it tracks all of it. And if you work with an accountant or QuickBooks or Wave, it'll pull that information in, and then it'll just say, you drove 3,000 miles this year for your business. You get all that write-off money. It's a huge expense people don't use enough. And you can write off the apps. There you go. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm trying to think of other apps. We use QuickBooks, Canva.
Just a little, when people starting, LegalZoom makes it very easy to create your LLC. And then Etsy, if you start on Etsy, at the end of the year, they send you your tax information. Shopify as well.
Squarespace is a great starting point as well. If you want to build a really beautiful gallery site, really easily. Squarespace is a great option for that. The Square app, we still use Square at markets, even though our POS and our inventory system is now under Vend, which has now become Lightspeed. POS systems are a whole beast of their own burden. But if you're doing markets and such, we use Square at markets. It's the easiest option. We use Stripe sometimes as well. If you're doing a lot of client work, we use Dipsado for events and contracts and things like that.
We did switch everything over to Shopify. We had kind of an antiquated system. So we had to put over 3,000 items on the website during COVID. I think I had a crying fit. Marcy was there when I did. So yeah, so I think Shopify has been extremely useful. I do think, and we use Canva also. I think finding out those things and simplifying your lives in any way that you can is super helpful, because I can feel the anxiety churning about like just doing it correctly. So if you get help and your other artists will have recommendations, and I say, you know, ask around, see what people like.
Again, I'm gonna say Canva. Canva has been amazing for me. Like, I keep joking, I'm like, I'm a graphic designer now. But it's like so easy to use. And again, like the same way you use reference for art, do that for your flyers as well and all that. So that way you make sure things are in margin. You could read them, test them, and all of that. So make sure everything is, you know, easy to read, because nothing's worse than bringing out a flyer and nobody could read it. So yeah, that's basically it.
All right, with that, oh yes.
I do have one other quick question. For the artists, whether you're selling in a market or you're selling through a gallery, like what kind of payment methods should we have set up that makes it easy for people and galleries and whoever to work with besides cash?
My bookkeeper prefers us to do it through Venmo because there's a reporting mechanism on our end so she could see it. Or if you like a good old-fashioned check mailed to you.
We do Zelle or check. So that's pretty much it, because pretty much everybody could take a check, and if not, we do it through Zelle. So we try to keep everything within our bank account.
Yeah, at Bookman's we'll usually just pay you right there when you bring your stuff in cash, or if it's a lot of cash, we might write a check. And then otherwise, we do have some local artists that like we order from so regularly that they've just set up to bill to our accounting department. So basically, they just, you know, we put in our orders, they send us their stuff, and then they can just send their invoices to our accounting department, and they'll mail out a check to them. But yeah, it's pretty easy at Bookman's.
I think Teresa mentioned Square. I mean, I think we used to do the street fair, Shannon and I, where we had a knuckle cruncher. That's how old we are and how long we've been doing this. So I think that it's really been amazing with the advancement and technology. And so that's a super easy. You can just stick it on your phone, I think that there's been lots of advancements that make kind of doing this much more accessible to everybody.
The more the merrier. Yeah. PayPal, Square, all of them.
Someone asked us about Bitcoin. I was like, come on.
Not there yet. Not there yet.
All right, out of respect for everyone's time, we're gonna wrap it up there. I highly encourage getting another drink, going and shopping the vendors. Please explore. But thank you for coming. Thank you to our speakers. I learned a lot. One last thing is we did record it to the best of our ability, and we have
I'm going to send to everyone the RSVP. If you didn't RSVP on our website and you want the recording, RSVP tonight. I'll keep it up through till tomorrow, and then I'll send it out on like Sunday, Monday kind of situation. So you'll get it.
Thank you, everyone.